So now this week we're 3D printing out our mausoleum for our cemetery build. And this is an approach you can take if you have a 3D printer and you want to print out something and go through it pretty quickly. And that's the good part about this. Once you've selected your file, you can get to the painting part of this, the priming and painting part of this really quickly. You just basically download the file, press print on your printer, and the rest of it's pretty straightforward and easy. This particular print came out with a couple of flaws. You see there on the door in the bottom left. It was a little curved, but look at it there. It came out pretty good. It also has runes that it came with the print on the top of the roof, on the corners, and on the front of the building. Well, once you get it out and you've cured it and you've cleaned it up a little bit by cutting off the little stubs that remain from your printing supports, and just get in there and prime it. And I use my Vallejo primer that I like to use on all my builds. It's the gray primer. I think it's used for an airbrush, as I've mentioned before in other videos, but I just brush it on because I don't have an airbrush. And really, that's the best part about this. It's really quick to get a finished product. Basically, download, print, prime, and then you're ready for the painting part. And I think this whole process, the printing takes a little while. I just set it to print overnight and woke up in the morning and there it was. The priming, this just didn't take me any time at all. Literally, probably less than 5 minutes. So, with the good out of the way, and, there's a lot of good things about being able to put out something really quickly. Let's move over to the bad parts of this 3D project here, this 3D print of the mausoleum. It's the painting, so this is on me. I started out with not really any idea of where I wanted to go with the color selection. I thought maybe the door would be metal, so I found some bronze paint and put on a first coat of that. And while it was drying, I moved over to the main body of the building, and I was thinking some kind of dirty limestone look. I don't know, so I went with some kind of tannish color. I don't remember the exact color I went with. And then while that was drying, I went back over to my door. The paint there had dried, and put on a second coat, which you'll see there. And then I moved over to the roof. And this is probably where I stayed in a safe space and just went with blah gray. And I really wasn't doing myself any favors, because in the end, it still didn't look all that great. But it looked better than the building, I think, anyway. And here I'm putting a second coat on to get down into all of those little lines between the tiles of the roof. Front and back. And then set that off to the side and move back over to the main building. And I looked at it and I was thinking to myself, I would try another approach. I didn't like the bland look of that, so I thought I would do individual stones of different colors. And quarried, different stones, and I just ended up blending it because I was impatient at the end of the day, and it turned out looking like a poop mausoleum. And then I tied it all together with a darker poop on the corners. So at this end of this process, really, I had basically just this ugly brown poop mausoleum. I wouldn't recommend it. Back to the door, no real improvements here. I just stick with the same bronze, copperish kind of color and muscle through. So I thought perhaps I should put a sarcophagus with a body in it. So I downloaded a file from Thingiverse, and I'll link that in the comments below. And this is what I was talking about with the cleanup of these 3D models, is you have these little stubs that are left behind from the supports, and you just have to clean those up with an X-Acto knife. And then here we have our little sarcophagus. I do a little cleanup around the bottom of it. That's where the supports were for it, and there were a little bit of support remnants on the sides too, so I cleaned those up. So at the end of this, I have a nice little sarcophagus with a body on the inside. That'd do perfectly. Again with my Vallejo primer. Again, this just doesn't take very long at all. Maybe just a couple of minutes, if that. Set it off to the side, and then I came back to it later and I went with a off-white. I painted inside and out, and that finished that part. So now let's get to the ugly. Essentially, the paint job was ugly. I just didn't like it. It looked terrible, and I thought I would try something different. So I went back and I spray painted it white, and then I tried a gray on the roof. Wasn't liking that. And then I tried this blue, this darkened blue. I got this idea from one of DM Scotty's videos where he did a cardboard mausoleum and painted it in this blue with this marbling effect using a sponge, and his looked really good. This, not so much. And again, I think it's part of the materials that I'm using here because I'm using like miniature paints for one. I don't think I got the colors right. I just wasn't feeling it. The blue just wasn't working for me, but I was running out of time, so I was like, yeah, why not? We'll just keep it blue, and at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, you know, you get these on the tabletop, and your players are going to enjoy them. They might rib you a little bit about the colors and stuff, but as long as the story's good and you guys are having a good time, it's not going to really matter much that you have a blue mausoleum in the middle of your graveyard, particularly if the rest of the graveyard looks pretty good, and I think the one I put together looks alright. So I think it's a perfectly okay to give them the blue mausoleum this time around, and then I'll revisit it and come back and repaint it a different color a little bit later. And we'll see what we have. But for now, this'll do. And that's it. And that concludes another episode of Tabletop That. Feel free to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, feel free to hit that thumbs down button. Leave comments below and hit that subscribe button if you're so inclined. And until next time, have fun and keep crafting.